Hello, Gino. Happy Wine Wednesday, favorite day of the week. I've got a little bit different of a background. I'm out in San Francisco seeing a bunch of the different leaders and cross-functional partners, and it just feels so good to be back in person because I didn't realize it's been like 3.5 years that I've been hitting like join Zoom and Zoom. And so being in person is like amazing. How's your week?
Back.
Yeah, back. How's your week?
Good, good, good. And I wanted to dive straight in. We're going to try and keep these tight knit under 5 minutes. I want to talk to you and wine with you about how important sales ops is to sales dev.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, I think part of the reason it's funny, my team is like completely remote. I've got like maybe four of my 120 SDRs are in San Francisco, but it is so important for me to come back and be in person, mostly because of the cross-functional partners. And like the partner that pops into my head, even when I said that before you asked about sales ops, was our, we call them rev ops. And like that has both marketing ops and sales ops rolled into one. But I mean, like beyond critical. I actually sent a meme to them the other day that's like the Beyonce one, like who run the world. And it's rev ops for sure.
I like it. Now, let's get into the whining and decision-making part. Do they tell you how the lead statuses go and how, create ops and all that? Do you change that? Just tell me like the order of ops and how the hierarchy works.
So it's been different at every company I've worked at. Part of that could be I've like started to grow in my career. Also, part of that could be the way that like the structure is already built out. And so like I'll give a quick example of that. Like when I joined Rippling, it's been very heavy marketing focus, like all leads, all inbound, which means like marketing has owned the world of accounts and TAM and like where they go and stuff. But as we've started to build out outbound, like that shift has started where, the sales side of the house and SDR specifically, like we have more say and more like strategy around like why we think things should route the way that they do or whatever that is. And I can dive into like some of those things, but I think this is probably one of the best partnerships I've ever had, and has been a cultural shift for the entire go-to-market team, because like we're going from this inbound marketing machine into how do we add outbound into it at the same time without, I say like we can't fuck this up, but we also have to build this at the same time. So like how do you do both? And it requires a really tight partnership.
It makes perfect sense. And I would say, like you said, if everything started with inbound, it started with marketing. And then if you're building an outbound leg, then it starts with sales dev. That's the birth of it. Let me ask you a question. How stringent are you on like the prerequisites to convert a lead to an op?
Actually, not as restrained as I probably could or should be, but I've always been a big believer on like, let the floodgates be open. I mean, I think especially like in today's macro environment, like
Yep.
anyone that's got a hand raiser that wants to come to us, like let's let them through. And so I think there's that piece to it, but I also think it's the SDR's like job to make sure that like they're doing the qualification, they're figuring out if that should be passed over to an AE. And I'm okay, like it all comes down to like what your benchmark and your metrics are too, right? Like as long as it's consistent and you're tracking the same stuff week over week, month over month, and you're not completely changing it all the time, your data can start to tell like the right story. And then you start, tracking it back to different segments. You start to pull it back into like, where are we investing our money to get these leads? Are they making it through the funnel? And just that tight feedback loop. Like I said, the partnership is so key. And so for us, like, I mean, I'm tracking, me and my leaders, like we're tracking this on like an hourly basis because of how high our volume is, but like hourly, daily. And then in a broader scheme with our demand gen partners, with RevOps, marketing, myself, and the AE side, weekly demand gen syncs.
And when someone gives you MQLs, are you all marking some of them disqualified at the start?
We are. I would say that's mostly for, you'd be surprised how many people have time in their day to send fake leads. But like when it's like a fake email or this or that, like there are DQs that happen. But more times than not, the stuff that we're tracking is like the SLA, how quick are we able to get a call onto it? We have, an automatic marketing email that hits them ASAP. But for us, like we require an SDR to get a call on a lead within 10 minutes and hitting that 90% of the time. And so that was like a huge focus that we've done. And it's really improved. I'd say like the number of touches on a lead is like the next thing. which ultimately impacts just like the overall conversion of an MQL to an SQL. And there's months where we see like a spike in MQLs and it does decrease. And then it's like, we have to dig in and figure out why. Like, I think last month we had an example where like marketing might have put more investment into LinkedIn leads, and LinkedIn changed their algorithm. And so all of a sudden the quality of those leads like drastically changed. And so it's a really nice, when you're that open and have that type of partnership, it's not like a pointing finger of like, your leads suck, you didn't convert them well enough. It's really like you're digging into like the why. So,
Yeah.
and
Let me point fingers now, real quick, just real quick.
It's always the A's fault. No, I'm kidding.
If the right title at the right company shows up to the demo, does the SDR get paid every time?
Almost every time. There's always gray areas, but yes, that is like, we have a very low threshold on qualification for S2. Like our state of our business right now is like, we are still hyper focused on the quality, making sure that like our AEs have enough demos and S2s on the calendar every day and month in order for them to have enough at bats to even get to their number. We implemented BANT, but minus the B, so ANT. So to your point that there's like authority and like someone's like raised their hand. Now on the outbound side, that's a little bit different. Like I mentioned earlier, like a cultural shift, like, you know, you go from having so many inbound leads, you can just kind of like swipe to the next one. The other side of it is like outbound, you have to nurture a little bit more. Like these people weren't expecting to take it. However, outbound allows us to like hyper focus on the ACVs that we want and the logos. And so there's this like, it's a beautiful thing what we're creating and building. I don't know how many people like doing it, but I love doing it. And so I like smile while I talk about it.
And my last operational question. What is more important? There's only one answer here. The quality of the lead from the marketing team to sales dev, or the quality of the work from sales dev to sales?
Quality of the work from sales dev to sales. And I think the reason I say that is because it's one of the things that I can control with my team. Okay. And I like really I always like to make sure my own house is cleaned up before I'm like pointing and looking at, you know, messes elsewhere. And again, like you think about the funnel, like you're casting a wider net with marketing. Yep. It's tighter and tighter and tighter as it goes down. And I think business changes as it goes. So like, sure, there should be a time where we start to evaluate, like, what do our form fills look like? And is that actually an MQL? But you know, that changes. You go to new markets, you go into new segments, like all of it is it's a moving target as long as you're like tracking the data the right way.
I completely agree. And we'll end on this. I agree that it's sales dev's job to turn no's into yeses. Marketing's job is to skim for yeses. So that's why all you marketing people out there, we're throwing you a bone. We're saying, just get us the volume, hit the numbers you promised us. It's our job to turn enough of those into SQLs or ops or S2, whatever we want to call them, tomato.
I feel like you were so much more eloquent in your short speech right there than I was that whole time. You made it very
you're doing
packaged.
You got a lot going on right now. I came with the topic, so I'm more prepared and you're not, and then you'll come with the next one in 2 weeks.
All right. Well, cheers. Happy Whine Wednesday, and I'll see you next week.
Cheers, AK. Always a pleasure.